It is all about having a SMART goal. SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So a goal of, I'm going to save some money, or I'm going to retire, or I'm going to buy a house, they are not SMART goals. If you want to buy your first home, it is, I'm going to buy a $700,000 property in August this year with a 70% deposit, and then you work through the specific actions to be able to achieve that goal.
Welcome to Checks and Balances, brought to you by Partners Life. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair. And today, why you need a financial plan in 2025.
We're back in your life.
We're back in your life.
And we are nearly in 2025.
Almost done with 2024.
So you know what that means, Mike? Everybody starts going, I'm not the person I want to be.
I can change.
I can be better.
I can do a resolution.
So they will start writing down what they want to achieve in 2025. And Mike, dare I say, finances might come into it. They might want their finances to do something so they can live a certain life.
Maybe make some progress with those financial goals, eh?
So how do we get forward with our finances, Mike?
I think the first thing we do is we make a plan. And what is step one of a financial plan, James? It's setting something we call
goals.
Yeah.
So you have to go away deep into your soul. Sit down with your spouse maybe and go, what do we want to achieve this year? And can I just say, it depends where you are sitting in life. If you go over 12 months, I'm just going to be in a completely different situation, potentially not realistic. It's about where do I want to be over the long term? And let me remind you, Mike, there's only 4 things you can do with money. You can live in a certain home. You can have a certain lifestyle now. You can retire, achieve financial freedom at a certain age, or you give the money away. You might give it away to kids, some sort of philanthropic endeavor, whatever it might be. So within those categories, what are you focused on? What do you want to achieve?
Yeah, and I think a really big thing with goals, and for everyone who's listening to this going, it's summer, I don't want to think about this. I want you to think about it when you're on the beach and the sun is shining and you listen to the podcast and you go, I've got a notes app on my phone. I'm going to start jotting some goals down. If you do that, you are literally taking steps to achieve your financial freedom, right? And I think that is a really clutch thing to do. And I can't overstate it. You're not doing anything else at the beach, right? Just write down some goals. And if I say, think about a goal and you go, savings, that is not a goal. James, what is that?
That's nothing. That's wishy-washy, fugazi. It's nothing. But I tell you what is something. Manley Beach in the summertime. I'm going to be there.
Manley Beach, Whangaparo, or Manley Beach, Sydney?
Sydney.
My favorite beach. Yeah.
Beautiful spot. Nice little breakfast.
My second favorite beach. My favorite beach, Red Beach. My second favorite beach, Manley Beach in Sydney.
Red Beach better than Manly?
No, I said my favorite beach, not a better beach.
Okay.
My favorite because I grew up in Red Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So you're right. The way you set goals is really important.
Yeah.
It is all about having a SMART goal. And you might remember those from school or university or whatever. SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So a goal of, I'm going to save some money, or I'm going to retire, or I'm going to buy a house, they are not SMART goals. If you want to buy your first home, it is, I'm going to buy a $700,000 property in August this year with a 70% deposit. And then you work through the specific actions to be able to achieve that goal. If you want to save, you want to pay off your credit card this year, for example. I've got $15,000 in credit card debt. That means I need to pay off $1,250 every month plus the interest cost to be able to pay off by the end of the year. Get really specific with those goals. My tip, especially if you're the kind of person who's looking to turn a corner with your finances. So maybe you're the person where we don't want to look at historical data in terms of performance because you're trying to, draw a line in the sand, be different going forward. My suggestion, instead of setting 10 goals, set 2 or 3 really good ones, because money is like a momentum game.
Yeah.
You want to have it's the psychology around it, feeling like you're going in a good direction, feeling like you're moving in the direction that you want to move in. And if you can get 2 or 3 really important goals not locked down in place, that's way better than 10 and then feeling crappy at the end of the year.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things, you've got to be able to, SMART goals, they need to be time-bound and achievable, right? So if your lofty goal is, I'm going to buy a Ferrari and you earn $18 an hour, I'm just not sure that's going to happen in a responsible way. So again, make sure the goals are realistic and that you can achieve them. And then once we've got those goals, we work backwards with a budget. Now, James, budgeting, nobody in their right mind who's lying on a beach right now listening to this podcast wants to talk about budgeting. Why should they think about budgeting in relation to their goals?
Look, and I think it's also important to say before maybe 15 Jan, we don't expect you to do that. We know it's hard to change in that period of time when the sun's out, but you've just got, there's really only three ways. Once you know the direction you're going in, there's only three really important parts to it. There's income, there's managing expenses, and then there's education, knowing what you're going to do. Fourth thing, pulling the trigger. Fifth one, time, if you want to kind of go down that road. So managing the expenses, there's, and we've said it so many times on the podcast, if you have good income, but it just comes in and comes out, you're never paying down debt, investing into assets, growing your wealth. You're on the treadmill of life forever, and you're never gonna get where you want to get to.
Yeah, and I think that's quite a salient point here is your immediate goal might not be, I'm going to build $1,000 a week of passive income. And that might be a long-term goal. But the way you get to those long-term goals might be, first thing I'll do is pay off the credit card. Once I've paid off that credit card, then I have to get an emergency fund. Then I have to start paying something else off. Then I have to get a house. Like when you see people on Instagram, on podcasts, even our podcast, we're saying, oh, look, we've made $1 million doing this
in
thing.
7 weeks.
Yeah. And like, it is achievable, but James and I didn't start with this, right? Like we started a long time ago with much smaller financial goals, right? And the major financial goal for most people who are starting out with their finances is to get on the property ladder. And for me, I operate on the debt side of things, the mortgage side of things. I think about the property market quite a bit. The key reason for me of why I think people should have a financial plan for 2025 is that the property prices are going to start increasing again. And you know what? If I say 10% and an economist says 7% and someone says 9% and someone says 6%, yep, okay, you can get your knickers in a twist over the percent. I don't really care. The general direction that property price is going to be heading is up, and trying to outsave a moving property market to get the required deposit is a very tough thing to do.
Do you know what I think the risk around that is as well is people go, oh, I need to get on with it. So you talked a bit about like managing the budget, having really good foundations. We know the people that got in trouble in 2021 was they didn't have good foundations. Yeah. And the saying that, you find out who's wearing swimmers when the tide comes in, or the tide goes out.
For togs, if you're a Kiwi.
Yeah, the togs. You work that piece out, is that you really need to have those good foundations, and that kind of FOMO piece is going to start to come back, and you've just got to make sure, if you've got a credit card and you're paying 17% interest, there is no investment where you are going to say, make a bigger return than 17% after tax fees and inflation.
Yeah.
So really focus on getting rid of that debt, having a really clear budget, knowing where your money is going, and then making sure you've got that good emergency fund. Before we move on, we talk all the time about planning and growing our wealth, but protecting that wealth is just as important. That's why having the right insurance in place can help when life goes unexpectedly.
And that's why this episode is brought to you by Partners Life, a New Zealand operated award-winning insurance provider with over 300,000 Kiwis insured and 89% of claims paid.
Partners Life understand that having some insurance is better than having no insurance. They have flexible and personalized solutions for any budget or situation.
Check out their website in our show notes below. When we tie all of this together around a financial plan, when some people come to James to speak about a financial plan, James actually goes, look, it's not right for you at the moment. You don't need me as a financial advisor to be your financial advisor. You pay me the money if you're really starting out, right? If you're really early on, you don't have a lot, what does a financial plan cost with you, James?
$3,000 plus just.
If you've got a $2,000 credit card that you've got to pay off, it wouldn't be great if we were like, yep, we're going to take $3,000 and then tell you to pay off a $2,000 credit card. That's not how it works. But a really important point, and what a lot of people use James for, is the accountability, right? And yep, with some skin in the game, $3,000, you're going to be a little bit more accountable. But let's say you've got a couple, one person can hold the other person accountable. You've got to do it vice versa. And that can be tough, especially when you're in a relationship. But having someone to keep you accountable, absolutely key.
The other thing I'll do is if they're not the right person for a plan, I'll be like, cool, what are you going to go and do? I'm going to write down my calendar. I'm going to make sure you go and do it. So if you still do want like a little bit of accountability, I might be getting myself in trouble here. I will follow you up with an email if you tell me what you're planning to do.
Yeah.
The other piece that I think is important to talk about is your income. And I think it's something we don't talk about enough. Income is your greatest wealth creation asset. If your income's not at a certain level, the reality is it's really hard to get ahead, right? Yeah. You're paying rent, you've got fixed bills, like it's very hard to move forward. So if your income is at a point where you're finding it really hard to save, you've focused on the expenses, but there's just not enough on the top line, you need a plan. You need a plan to work out how are you going to grow your income. Now, I'm not saying go and create 12 side hustles or start your own business or whatever. I'm saying, what is the career that you're in? Is there the ability to earn more if getting ahead financially is a goal for you? And what is the plan to get where you want to get to?
Yeah.
And it's just as simple as going to your boss. Here's what I want to get to. What do you need me to do? Then go do double.
Yeah, I actually love that. As someone like both James and I employ people, and there is like nothing better when someone comes to you and goes, I want this. Let's put a plan in place so I can get there, right? And you go, cool, here's the steps you got to do. Here's the timing. Here's how it works for the business. Let's rock and roll.
But in all seriousness, like if a household earns less than probably like 200K, I most times will be like, you shouldn't pay for a plan just because like the income is the fuel. So really think about your earning. You might go, I'm in a career where I don't earn a lot, but I get a lot of satisfaction from what I do. I don't want to go and do something that's completely fine. But if you are in the camp where you are trying to increase your income, or that's important, just like a financial plan with the debt and the investment, you need to have a plan for your career.
Yeah, I was a landscaper and I loved landscaping. I was a landscaper for like 4 or 5 years, a construction landscaper. Honestly, you start with nothing, you build something, you can turn around and be like, I built that. That's really cool. I very quickly realized that one, man, is it tough work? So my body is breaking down. And two, I'm not going to earn the money that I want to earn to live the lifestyle that I want to live as a landscaper. So I went back to university, studied for 3 years, economics and finance, and chose a path in finance.
But boy, were you tanned for that time as a landscaper.
I was very tan and I was kickboxing and landscaping. I was very fit.
Yeah. So you shredded and tan.
I remember I did a kickboxing fight. I went down to make weight and my girlfriend at the time was like, you can never do this again. Like if you you are too light. like this is not attractive.
Yeah. So we've spoken so far around the goal side, the income side, the expense side. Now we're going to talk about the strategy. And kind of like with a diet or nutrition or exercise or whatever, there's 1,000 different ways to get to the outcome. You can pay down debt, you can invest into shares, you can start a business, you can invest into residential property, you can flip properties, you can do commercial property. There's 1,000 different ways you can go about it. The good thing is, I think the things I've rattled off, we've done episodes on all of them.
Yeah.
The most important thing for you to do is you got 2 options, right? You self-educate. So you go through and find out all the information, work out the pros and cons of each strategy, apply it to your situation and go, what am I going to do? Because you need to constantly deploy your capital into assets and pay down debt to grow your wealth so you've got options in the future. The other option, obviously, is you go, I don't want to do all that stuff. I want to delegate to somebody else. So you can reach out to a financial advisor like at Lighthouse or another financial advisor and get on with it and make sure you're taking action.
Yeah.
The final thing is the action piece, Mike. So a lot of people can do those first 4. They can do, the goals, the income, the expenses, the strategy, but then they think, they analyze, and they never do anything.
Yeah. And if you are listening to this podcast and you're like, yeah, I'm going to think about some goals, that is not taking action. Write the goals down. I'm going to put it out there. You have not taken any action, even if you've thought about them, until you have physically written them down. Do it in a book. Do it in the notes on your phone. Hell, I don't care. Tag it on the wall of the toilets at the beach. Couldn't care less. Just make sure you've got some goals written down. Boy, that would be a laugh.
Yeah, and tag checks and balances in vandalism. So you need to take action. It is the most important part of the plan. Like if we're not if we're not pulling the trigger,
Yeah.
we're just not getting anywhere.
Yeah, and pulling the trigger looks like a lot of different things. I've talked about writing your goals down. You could be doing a budget. You can be reassessing all of your accounts, your debts, seeing what debt you've got to pay off first. It could be as simple as speaking to a mortgage broker, having a chat and seeing how much is that house going to cost me. You could be looking at your KiwiSaver, making an active choice about your KiwiSaver provider and fund. There are a ton of things you can do that are taking action, which don't require a lot of time.
Yeah. So that is your plan.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do. You've thought about it for a long time. It's time to go and do it.
Yeah, make 2025 the year that you really start to kick those goals with your finances.
Yeah, and just remember, it's just all about the psychology. It's all about forward momentum. And it's amazing, like, when you knock these things out, the opportunities it can create off the back of it. So I'm excited. The other thing is, we've been, when you're like running along the waterfront or doing your thing, you run into the wind, right? And it's so hard and you feel like you're going nowhere and it feels like it's so slow. That wind direction is starting to change.
Yeah.
The economy will change next year. Of course, it's not just going to be rainbows and sunflowers, but it will change. There will be some forward momentum, which will make this easier going forward. So it's a really good time to make sure that you are making the most of your plan. You know where you're going. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
Much love to Partners Life for sponsoring the episode. Subscribe to the channel, give us a review, give us a like. I'm off to Manley Beach, and we'll catch you in 2025.
Cheers.